the idea, the concepts that we're doing,
Yes,
and get some initial takes from people on it to consider when we plan the project.
So we're at the initial, very initial stages. So are we live and up and running then?
Yes. Pamela, can you hear us okay? We can see you.
Oh, she's
That's why
nodding
we're
yes.
asking you. Okay, thank you.
Are the cameras on me now?
Yes. Yep.
I like the camera on me. Fantastic. Good evening, everybody. I'm Jim Pruitt with the San Mateo County Harbor District. I'm the general manager. We're here tonight to talk about the Princeton Shoreline Feasibility Study, or it's also known as the public Princeton Shoreline Project. And I'm here with Melly Hecken, who will be running the show in the background via Zoom, and also the president of the Harbor Board, Commissioner George Donnerman. With that, I'll turn it over to Joelle, who will introduce the Army Corps personnel.
Oh my God, of course. Yeah. All right, thank you, Jim. My name is Joelle Flannery. I work for the Army Corps of Engineers. I am a senior project planner, also a facilitator, public involvement specialist, and a project manager. For this project, I'll be facilitating tonight. I'm going to help us introduce our team, the Army Corps of Engineers. We have 3 people in the room and a few people online. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Grace.
Hi, everyone. I'm Grace Wieland. I'm the planner on this project.
Oh.
Hi, I'm Eric Jolliffe. I'm the environmental lead on the project for the Corps.
And Pamela, I can see you. So why don't I turn it over to Pamela first? And you can probably see who's online, Pamela. So maybe you can tag it over to the next Army Corps person.
Sure. I'm Pamela Fisher. I'm the realty specialist out of Sacramento District. I see William Zemke and I see a conference room. That's I don't see anybody else.
How about Jamie Yu?
There you go.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Yu. I'm the PM for the study, and I will pass it to Tina Pico.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tina Pico. I'm the coastal engineer and technical lead on the project. I see Tyler's online if he wants to go.
Yeah, sure. Afternoon all. Tyler Miller. I'm the civil engineer, sort of the designer for the team here at the Corps, and I'll pass it on to Danny.
Hi, everyone. My name is Danny Ruane. On this project, I'm the Engineering with Nature representative. Is there anyone else from the Corps?
I can go next.
Yeah, Russell.
Hey, everyone. Good evening. Russell Anilino. I'm an archaeologist. I do the cultural resource compliance and travel coordination for this project.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So we have a lot of people from our team involved in tonight's meeting, many virtual, honestly, just to save the funding for the project. Really, it's just going to be the 3 of us presenting today, and during a question and discussion period, the rest of our team can really speak up and address any questions that we can't. So I'm going to jump to the next slide. So meeting purpose, why are we here today? So we've been working on the Princeton Shoreline study for a while, and since about last fall, and we wanted it this is an opportunity to meaningfully engage with the public, hear any insights you have about the project, the problems, and then things you might see about what we've done so far that you have insights on. Maybe even you don't like something you see, and so we'd just be really appreciative to get that feedback early in the study. As far as the study purpose, this is, Grace is going to explain in more detail, but this is called, for the Army Corps, it's a CAP 111 project. She's going to explain what that means, but it has 2 phases. The first phase is our feasibility study. The second phase is design and construction. We're in the early feasibility phase on this project. And so our job is to investigate solutions that can address the problems caused by our federal navigation project, the breakwater. So as far as meeting participation goes, we do have a hot mic if you could mute. But just first of all, if you could sign in. If you're in the room, we have a sign-in sheet by the door here. If you're virtual, if you could sign in the chat, Melanie and Jamie, you are going to keep track of your sign in. If you could maybe put your name, your affiliation, and any contact information you'd like to share with the team, that'd be greatly appreciated. After our presentation, we're going to have a discussion period, and we're going to break it up really into two main parts. First, just any questions you have. These won't go on the record, but if you want clarification, question about the presentation, just in general clarification questions. If you're in person, you can just speak up. If you're virtual, you can type in your questions at any time. Melanie's and Jamie are going to help track those, and we'll bring those up later. You can also raise your hand virtually. We'll call on you later. This isn't a huge meeting. We don't have to be overly structured, but we also have a limited amount of time. Then we're going to go into the comment period. If you have a formal comment that you'd like to see eventually in a report, and you just want to make sure the team notes it in a more formal way, you can write that on a 3x5 card. If you're in person, you can raise your hand later. We'll get to a comment period. If you're online, it's very similar. You can type in your comment anytime. Just note it's a comment. And we'll make sure to, keep track of that. You can also raise your hand during the comment question. Other than that, please be candid, speak your mind, share your experiences, your perspective. Again, ask questions, provide comments. We think you might have some feedback on topics like when we talk about what we see and our team sees as problems in the area, you may see something we've missed. When we talk about solutions that might address those problems, you might know something we missed. Those are the types of things we think you might be able to share with us, but there's probably a lot more. All right, this is our agenda. We're done with the first bullet. We're done with the half of the second bullet. The next thing I'm going to talk about is just a quick Army Corps of Engineers overview, because we're a big agency. We do a lot of things, and can kind of be hard to figure us out. Then Grace is going to give us Jim is going to give us a study overview, like just a snapshot of the project area. Grace is going to talk us through planning process overview, potential solutions. Russell's going to talk to us about the tribal consultation. Eric is going to talk to us about public involvement, and he's going to lead us into the question, comment, and discussion part of the agenda. So with that, Army Corps of Engineers. So the Army Corps of Engineers is the oldest agency in the government. We do a lot of things. Everything we do has been specifically authorized by Congress for us to do. So, and this project falls under navigation, the breakwaters that we see in this area. There's a lot of different types of things we do related to navigation. We also do coastal storm risk reduction, flood risk management, ecosystem restoration, recreation, water supply in some cases, and others. This project sits in the San Francisco district. So if you see that map of Oregon and California, that lighter shade is the entire Klamath River watershed there at the north, coming down and kind of going along the coast in Indian. That's the San Francisco district. And so that's where this project sits. And so I think it's fair to say that except for Pamela, the rest of us at the Corps work for the San Francisco district. I think that's right. All right. Study overview, Jim. It's back to you.
These aren't on presenting slides, so let me take a quick peek. So how did the Harbor District get involved? How did this project get started? The breakwater, when it was installed in 1960s, caused a lot of change to the way the sand was transported around Half Moon Bay. Not just Half Moon Bay. I'm not talking the city. I'm talking about the actual Half Moon Bay. The Coast Guard, sorry, my previous agency, the Harbor District, a few years ago sent a letter asking the Army Corps to look into mitigating and preventing the damage to the Princeton shoreline that has resulted from that change in current caused by the breakwater. And that's how we got to today. The area of concern we were looking at is basically from Barbara's Fish Trap over by the inner breakwater on Capistrano, all the way down to West Point on the other end of Surfers Beach, or Princeton Shoreline. Princeton Beach, my other project. As I was saying, before the breakwater, there was no Mavericks Beach. It was a Mavericks Cove. It was still full of water. And the beaches were long, they were wide, they provided a lot of protection for the Princeton Shoreline, for the fishing industry, and any structures along that shoreline. That all changed when the breakwater was put in. The waves wrapping around Pillar Point no longer wrapped around Pillar Point and affected the shoreline because they hit the breakwater. And the erosion rates shot through the roof. So if you're looking at near Romeo, where Romeo Pier was, 17 inches a year were disappearing. Near Vassar, 15 inches a year. Vassar to Columbia was 12 inches a year. And then near Columbia was 19 or 7 inches a year, which is significant. How does the Princeton Shoreline project fit into the other issues that the Harbor District is working on with the Corps and without the Corps? This is the Princeton Cap 111 project. It's going to address the Princeton Shoreline to mitigate and prevent further damage to the shoreline as a result of the breakwater. We're going to investigate possible solutions tonight as we move forward and get your input on those solutions. That's today's focus. Surfers Beach replenishment pilot project and harbor dredge project. We just completed it, as everybody knows. We put around 76,000 cubic yards of sand on Surfers Beach. That sand came from the sand trapped inside the harbor as a result of the breakwater. So we took that sand that's trapped in the breakwater inside the harbor, put it on Surfers Beach to keep that southern transport of sand continuous down the beach. As you can see, the surfers love it now. The surfing's much better there, and the waves are hitting the beach at a different angle. So it's very successful as a pilot project, and we're learning a lot from that. That's important because the next project that the district is pushing for on Surfers Beach is under the Water Resource Development Act of 2024, which was signed into law in January of 2025. And it's authorizing the Army Corps to do a study and investigate the negative impacts related to storm and damage risk reduction on the shoreline, basically from Pillar Point all the way down to Arroyo de Mateo, just south of Miramar. That flood and storm damage is at such a higher risk right now because of the damage done to the coast side due to the breakwater. The breakwater on that coast side, without the breakwater being there, normal erosion rates is like 0.24. Now we're losing 1.5 feet, 1.6 feet a year because of that. That's been authorized by Congress to authorize the Army Corps to look at that again. We needed it to go into WRDA because in 2015, the Army Corps looked at it one time and the cost benefit ratio didn't meet 1-to-1, and that was a gate. They had to meet 1-to-1 or move on. They didn't, so they had to move on. The Coast Guard took it over, and that was the result of the Surfers Beach and Harbor Dredge project for us. That's talking about that's the next one, the Cap 111 Northern Half Moon Bay Shoreline Improvement Project. We asked them, the Corps again, under 216 of their continuing authorities to do a study. Army Corps agreed to do the study. They did the study under the 111, which we'll learn more about today. But they looked at the county, the state, and the city of Half Moon Bay, who already said, oh, we're going to do repairs. Caltrans said, we're going to move the highway. The county and the city said, oh, we're just going to build the revetment, the rocks you see there. And that's going to last 25 years. And Miramar's already protected with the revetment. So we don't have to worry about that. So the Army Corps basically said, you guys are already taking care of it, so we're not going to. That's where the WRDA project came in, gave them authorities to redo that, which was critical. And then the breakwaters. They were installed in 1960s at the request of local fishing fleets here on the coast side to protect the fishing fleet that were exposed to very large storms and damaging waves into the Half Moon Bay, into the shoreline, into their piers and their structures. The Army Corps agreed that they would put breakwaters here to make a safe harbor for the fishing fleet. They agreed to do it to provide protection to the shoreline and the shoreline infrastructure. They did it and approved it to provide a harbor of safe refuge along the coast all the way up and down the coast. There's harbors designated by the state and federal government as harbor of safe refuge, where a vessel in trouble can tuck in and find safety from storms or if they have mechanical problems. So the breakwaters are critical. We need them. They're really not going to go anywhere. They may be modified in the future, but we cannot remove them because we'll destroy that harbor of safe refuge, which is critical, just 19 miles south of the entry to Golden Gate. I think that's,
Yep.
I cover everything?
Yeah, I think it's on to me. All right. So what is the Continuing Authorities Program? That's the authority we're working under for this particular project. That's the acronym CAP. You'll hear that thrown around today. And if you follow the project, you'll hear it thrown around. So I just wanted to define that. Continuing Authorities Program are small water resource problems, and they have a specific federal limit of $15 million. That includes the study phase and the construction phase. And so you saw the photo of our different mission areas: navigation, storm risk, ecosystem restoration. Those also exist under CAP, and they all have different names. So the 204, 206, those are ecosystem restoration. But yeah, just wanted to show you kind of what CAP is, and then we'll zoom in on the specific 111 projects. So 111 projects are specifically to address shoreline erosion that are caused by a federal navigation project. So this is an example of a 111 project that was completed in the New England area. This is the federal navigation project. It was a canal, and it disrupts the sand transport. So the canal blocks the sand from moving down coast, and it is trapped behind the canal, and then this portion of the beach is eroded. And so that was how they looked at the 111 project, just to give you an example of what the authority specifically looks like and what we're targeting for this project. So this is a cartoon example of a hypothetical shoreline. So the black line is the historic position of the shoreline. This is like back before the breakwaters or navigation project was ever constructed. Over time, there is erosion that would occur, even if there was nothing constructed, just some erosion that would occur. That is what the yellow line represents. And then in this hypothetical cartoon shoreline, let's say the breakwaters are constructed, that exacerbates erosion. Then you see the shoreline go all the way to here. So for a 111 project, it specifically says within our policy that we can't restore things to historic positions, but we can target this right here, which is the erosion caused by the breakwater. So just want to set the scene a little bit for what this particular project is allowed to do. So this is our study approach. We're in the study phase, as Joelle mentioned. Right now, we are right here. We have done a lot of work reviewing what has already been done out here. We've done a site visit, and we've kind of are understanding the existing conditions, and we are developing what we call problems, opportunities, objectives, which help guide our planning process, kind of focus on what we want to, how we want to develop the solutions. So we do that work, and then we're moving towards developing solutions. You'll see some of those solutions tonight, what we kind of brainstormed thus far. Then we'd evaluate those solutions based on economic, environmental, and social concerns. And then we'd ultimately select a plan and recommend that to our headquarters. And after that phase is complete, that's just the study phase, then we move into the actual design and construction of the project. So we did a site visit in December. These are some photos from the site visit that are kind of exemplifying some of the problems we saw out there. So you can see damaged utilities. This is intended to show that there's limited beach in front of these properties, and then the properties experiencing some damage to the revetment there. So these are all some problems that we noted on our site visit. And then this is just the summary of the problems out there. So we have to tie our problems and our objectives to the specific authority, which is the breakwaters and the erosion to the breakwaters. So how we summarize that here is that the breakwaters are causing some shoreline erosion, and that results in damage to infrastructure, homes, businesses, and causes a negative impact on recreation. And then our objectives, what we want to accomplish with the project, would be to lessen the impact of the shoreline erosion tied to the breakwaters and minimize damage to homes, businesses, utilities, and support and enhance recreation out there. All right, so that's our problems and objectives, where we're going. And then this is the solutions that we work towards developing to help solve those problems. So this is our strategy, which is a nature-based green to gray solution. So this is like a conventional engineering solution, which would have no ecological benefits, and then you'd move towards something like a natural habitat that would have no engineering involved. For something like this project, we want to target this hybrid solution, which would combine natural, nature-based features along with some traditional engineering to help protect the people, environment, the infrastructure out there. So the combination of those two. Is there a comment that, sorry, I just saw a comment come up. Is that one I need to address here?
They're asking you to point at
Oh.
the one you're talking about.
Oh, okay. This is the one I'm talking about, what we're targeting, the hybrid, which would be a combination of natural and traditional engineering. This is gray, conventional engineering with no ecological consideration. This one would be natural, no engineering.
And Grace, you may need to point with the mouse.
Oh, right. Okay.
Mouse pad.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So just a definition, nature-based solution is something that would leverage nature and the natural ecosystem to help protect people and the environment and create a sustainable future. So these are the array of measures that we've come up for specifically for the Princeton project. I'll call it a few: reef balls, beach nourishment, dynamic cobble beach, rock revetment. Some of these you may have not heard of, so I provided a few photos of some of the maybe more unique features, like the reef balls, oyster breakwater castle, nature-based revetment there, marine mattress, a vegetated dune down there, just to help give you an idea of what some of these things could look like. So those array of measures, those are all kind of possible solutions. And to create our ultimate plan or alternative that we'd recommend to Congress, we'd combine 2 or more of those to create a robust alternative to help solve the problems out there. So this is what it might look like when you combine all those smaller elements. This is not the conceptual design of what we have planned to do. We're not at that point yet. We're at the early phase of the project, but this is what it could look like. So you have your natural reef, horse beach, and then there's more traditional engineering up there. Just a combination of features. This is a local example. So you have this is the West Trail Living Shoreline project. So you have multiple, as you can see, multiple different measures that would create the full plan. So they had beach nourishment, rock fingers, cobble beach, and dune, and recreation features. So that is similar to the process that the Corps goes through in combining many different measures to create a full plan. All right, I think I'm going to move to Russell for tribal consultation.
Sounds good. So I'll briefly cover our tribal coordination and consultation complete to date. Last fall, the Army Corps coordinated with the Native American Heritage Commission to identify tribal nations and organizations that are affiliated with the project area. Based on the Commission's recommendations, we formally invited the 8 tribes and organizations that are listed on this slide to consult on September 4th, 2025. Because this project is still in the early planning stages, we believe that early consultation is critical. Our goal is really to work collaboratively with tribes to identify any cultural resources, concerns, or even opportunities that should inform project planning and decision making. I will say, consultation, this is an ongoing process, And we really welcome continued engagement outside of this public meeting with any tribes. So if there are any tribes not on this list, we invite you guys to consult with us. And I believe that's all I have. So I'll hand it over to Eric now.
Where's the arrows? Oh, here they are. Okay, so we've met with the public one time before. I think some of you were there, and it was more the technical public, and it was just to and with the 8 coordinating agencies to lay the groundwork for how the study is going to unfold. But this is our first opportunity for the public to provide scoping comments. This is officially a scoping meeting for our NEPA compliance. That's the National Environmental Policy Act. So this is your first opportunity as the public to, if you see anything, I mean, we're really early on in this study, so we don't really have anything to lay out there. But if you have concerns that we haven't addressed, or if you see something wrong with something that we've said, or you have any ideas that might be nice to throw into the mix, provide a comment on a card, or we'll have an opportunity after this. We'll have an opportunity to provide a comment vocally if you want. We'll record that. And then the next time you'll have an opportunity is in this fall, like October. I think we're talking about having another meeting. And so once we consider all these different measures, we'll put them into different alternatives, a range that we think are a wide range to kind of consider everything, and bring that back out to the public and see what you think about those ideas. And we will take comments on that as well. We'll put a draft report out next fall. There'll be a comment period. We haven't determined how long it'll be, 15, 30 days, something like that, for the public to comment on that as well. We might have a public meeting in that period if we have the funding still, and you would be able to provide comment in person. And those will also be considered, and they'll also be entered into the public record, and they will be included with the documentation. And then sometime around the end of 2027, we should have our report finished and have a determination to move forward with the project. And that's how that strictly the NEPA end of it. I'm not getting into all of our permitting. When we put out the draft report, we'll also be approaching our permits with the Fish and Wildlife Service and NOAA and the Water Board and everybody else, the Coastal Commission. We're coordinating with them now, but we'll officially start working on our permits at that stage. Go ahead.
I don't have a comment yet, but a question about the previous slide. You said that you consulted with the tribal nations.
Oh,
A summary of any of their input.
Russell?
Yeah, so we consulted with 2 tribal nations. So we talked to the Amamitsan tribal band, who stated that this isn't their ancestral territory, but thank you for the invitation to consult. And then also the Ramaytush Ohlone. So they would prefer that we reconsult once we have an alternative determined. So it's still pretty early on. They appreciated the opportunity to talk early, but they just want more detail about the actual project before they could provide input. So that's just the summary, if that's what you're asking for the consultations.
Yeah, I was curious what their comments were, but there's nothing to comment on yet.
Pretty much. Yeah, so we just gotta wait and reconsult later once we have more detail about the plans.
Thank you.
Okay. So we are pretty much, you've already started the question period. So we'll take questions from people present here. Then we'll go to the online folks. So if anybody has any questions, one of us will answer you. Just raise your hand and we'll pick you as you go if you have any.
I have lots of questions. So it looked like a lot of the report was focused on areas inside the breakwater. What are you proposing, or what measures are being considered for Highway 1?
We're not considering that in this part of the project. That's part of that other the overall project. That's what'd you call it?
That's going to be under the WRDA 2024 project, which is separate from this project.
It's completely different authorities. The continuing authorities program has a cap of $15 million. And so we have to keep it under that for the Princeton Shoreline project. That includes planning and engineering, design, and all through way through construction. WRDA doesn't have that limit. We have to do the study first, and then once that study's done, then we'll move on. But right now, we just have the authorization to do the study. So more to come on that.
And I can,
What's WRDA?
yeah.
Water Resource Development Act. It's passed by Congress and signed into law usually twice or every other year.
So what happens, we'll partner up with somebody who has an issue that they want to work on. We'll do a feasibility study, come up with some costs, then it goes to Congress. So the thing about WRDA is it has to get passed by Congress. So I'm not sure how that's going to happen in the next few years, but we'll get and that's how and then they'll authorize it, and then the money has to get appropriated to the Office of Management Budget. So it's kind of a long process. It takes a few years.
Yeah, and I'll just jump, I know there's like three of us answering the same question. So for the Army Corps of Engineers, our big projects are all individually authorized by Congress. So, you can think back to like Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Sandy, or some really big project. So Congress authorizes a project and then appropriates money. And for those big projects, you have to go back a couple of times for different authorizations and different appropriations. At some point, Congress said, gosh, we need smaller projects to be less work, even for us. So we're going to give you standing authorities like this CAP, Continuing Authorities Program. So for this one up here, I'll use my pointer, guys. So for something like what we're working on, here's the pointer. So for what we're working on, this is an authority that's been delegated down to the Army Corps of Engineers to make decisions. But the catch is it only is $15 million, and it was only 10 million before, a couple of years ago. And so it has to be something that can fit, within that. But the reason Jim in the Harbor District is sort of excited about this third one down, where did I go here? It's because that one that has an authorization. So what does someone say? It's like your parents give you permission to drive the car, but they don't give you the keys. So we have permission to drive the car on this one here. So we have the authorization, but we don't have money, so we can't do anything. So the Harbor District's excited about this because it doesn't have a cost limit. So a community, you partner with the Corps, you have to have a non-federal sponsor, you partner with the Corps, there's a cost share and everything, but then you can figure out what the problem is and you can essentially figure out a solution to fit it. So I know you asked a simple question, what about Highwall 101? All we're saying is it just doesn't fit in this project. It sits somewhere else and it might sit right here. Can't guarantee it, but it might. So.
We are working with Caltrans, the county, One Shoreline, in developing this coastal commission, the marine sanctuary. So addressing the whole problem as a group, not individually.
Anyone else? Yeah.
You talked about the distance beyond the shoreline.
Mm-hmm.
That is your area of interest.
Mm-hmm.
Can you define that a little bit more of how far out is that flexible, or how much do you go offshore?
Yeah, so we are doing what's called a shoreline change analysis. So we're looking at how the shoreline has changed since the breakwaters were constructed, like the position of the shoreline, like how it has eroded over time. And that's how we're determining how much of the erosion that has happened is caused by the breakwater versus what might have happened if the breakwater was never constructed. It is a little complicated. And that's our target. So that shoreline change analysis will inform how far out we can go.
So that's a 2D analysis. You're just looking down.
Hmm?
Okay. You're not looking at depth.
Tina, can you help me out here? We have our coastal engineer on the line.
Friend, Tina.
Yeah, it's 2D based on historic aerial photos.
So
Danny's actually working on it right now. So
3D problem, if you go back to your image of the harbor, that's like I'll get her to try that.
Well, it's wasn't one of Jim's, one of these?
One of the photos of the shoreline.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll work.
Okay,
So on the left side, which is the west side of Pillar Point Harbor, is a large sandbar. And that large sandbar is slowly moving to the east. I've been here 25 years and I installed the docks for the yacht club, so I keep track of the sand movement. But the sand movement is slowly going to the east, and it's going to be filling in front of where the yacht club is, and it continues. In the past 20 years, it's the beach area, I should say, out where the dock is, has decreased 2 feet in depth. And if I walk, like I said, get my wetsuit, I go out to the dock, I can start walking towards the sandbar and I'm just walking uphill. And ever since they took the pier out, the sand's been moving faster. So I guess my point is, when you're considering your solutions, if you could help maintain some depth, because I've already moved our dock system out 50 feet just to keep it in deeper water. So the boats that we have moored there aren't bouncing on the bottom. So that's why the difference between the two, I mean, right along the shoreline, what matters to the yacht club is the depth of the water.
Are you talking about this sandbar or this one?
That one to your left, yeah. Yes. I'm sure the one on the right is going to be moving as well.
so Tina, I just want to give you a moment. So this is Kelly. Kelly, did we meet you on our site visit? Were you the person that joined us on the beach? Okay, this is Kelly that was with us in December. I just want to give you a chance, Tina is our coastal engineer, to see if you have any response or comment.
I can't see what was being pointed at, but
It's
so
that area down here in the bottom left. And so Kelly's saying that this buildup down here in the bottom left is slowly marching eastward.
The alluvial fan.
Alluvial fan coming
yeah,
out of.
so the aerial photos, we tried to take at least one a year and different seasons as well. And yeah, I see your point of 2D versus 3D, but the 2D should capture the movement of the sand over time, like what you're saying, because we trace the shoreline at the same tide level every time. So the idea is like we should be able to see really small levels of change over time. And we looked really detailed at the last 25 years specifically. So hopefully we'll be able to capture that. I don't have the results yet, but we'll see, based on your comment, we can look at the results more carefully and see if we're seeing what you're saying there. So that'll be interesting.
It's definitely shown in the pictures, the drawings.
Yeah, if it's in the pictures, we should definitely see it then.
Okay.
So when you're talking about restoring the shoreline, is that just in today's terms? Because current models show 9 inches of sea level rise by 2050 and 3 to 6 feet by 2100. So what I'm asking is, will your project address sea level rise in the long term?
So again, I'm going to have Tina answer as well. I'm going to give my answer, which is we are including sea level rise in our analysis. But our project, it is a small project. So sea level rise we're going to include it in how we design our alternatives, but sea level rise is going to happen regardless of what we do out here. Tina,
Regardless of the breakwater.
yes, regardless of the breakwater. So yeah, I think, does that give you some idea of?
Tina, can you support our answer there?
Yeah, Grace said it perfectly. So unfortunately with this authority, the main focus has to be mitigating damage caused by the breakwater. Of course, we're going to look at sea level change because as a standard, we project out 50 years into the future for our designs. So we're going to look at 50 years into the future and design for that scenario. But the main focus has to work within the authority that Cap 111. So not discounting it, but I don't want to say that we can solve every problem with $15 million. So yeah.
And I remember the two of you kind of explained this to me because it's a little confusing. And, you know, absent of the breakwater, we'd have the impacts from sea level rise. So it's Tina's job, with the support of Grace, to parse that out and to help us ensure that we are focused on mitigating the damage of the breakwater. I'm saying the same thing, but I don't know.
I like to say that this project is not focused on sea level change, but it has to take sea level and change in the planning process on the 50-year outlook. So if sea level change is going to add 2 feet in 50 years, this project has to be built to address that. If it's, I can't remember what the sea level change is supposed to be out 50 years from now, but so it's not the focus, but it has to be addressed.
But beyond 50 years, it's not going to be addressed.
This project, the planning horizon's 50 years.
Because the bulk of sea level change is going to be beyond that 50-year horizon.
Yeah. And so the word authorization you're trying to seek would maybe contemplate that in more detail, because we're not going to like solve the resilience challenges of 3 to 6 feet of sea level rise with $15 million. Is that the thinking there?
Not for Princeton, but again, the word projects from Pillar Point over at Mavericks Beach all the way down to the Arroyo. So that could be looked at as part of that, but really the damage comes from the storm surge, and we need to address that, and that's what the water project is going to address. And this project too doesn't just look at the Princeton corner of the harbor. Whatever the design is, the final design we look at, it also has to look at how that will affect other aspects of the harbor, like the sand built up on the south break or southeast breakwater. That's where a lot of the sand sits. If they do a project that makes that worse, then we can't go that direction. We have to figure out a project that doesn't make any areas worse. And if we can, design a project that actually helps, such as the alluvial dam problem coming out of the salt marsh over on the west side. Beneficial reuse of that sand.
The planning horizon for any future study, including through WRDA, this possible general investigation study, if it gets funded, also has a 50-year horizon though, as far as the planning. So just the standard for core planning assessments is 50 years from the time of construction forward. Okay. George?
We didn't talk much about it, and you have various elements of the feasibility study, and I believe there's a technical appendix that's part of the feasibility study that then includes all the technical data, the study, so forth. I think one of our concerns is that if you design an alternative, that it be evaluated probably numerically to see if you're transferring the problem anywhere else. That's kind of right. The same thing that Jim was saying. Is that part of the plan for the technical studies to look at any kind of circulation study or?
Tina, can you respond to that question?
It was a little quiet. I think I heard you though. I have all the data from what are we calling it here? The Cap 111 Northern Half Moon Bay project. I think that's what you're talking about.
Let me paraphrase. I think I can paraphrase here. So and maybe I can, maybe I can't, George, you can step in for me. But essentially, when the engineering is looking at the possible solutions, are we going to be assessing any negative impacts that we might have in the broader project area and or mitigating for those through the project design?
Is that the question for me then?
Yeah.
I don't know if I understand that question. I mean, I'm not trying to cause any new negative impacts, if that makes sense. That's not the goal here. So we're obviously going to look at how anything we design will impact adjacent areas of inside the harbor. Does that answer? I'm not sure I get your question.
George, what are we missing? You can just speak into the mic right next to you to make sure we can hear you. Mhm.
I'm sorry, what was her?
Did we miss anything there? You want to?
I'm not sure. I know under CAP, you're limited in funding, so there's not a lot of money that's attributed to the technical studies typically at that level. But our concern is, I mean, you got the forcing functions, which are the wind currents that are modified by the breakwater, the waves, and the tidal currents. And so whatever structural alternative you build, you'll modify that again, those three, hopefully to the positive side that benefits Princeton Shoreline. The concern would be, are you transferring that energy or anything else to another part of the harbor that may need to be looked at? Now, what could that be? It could be that the sediments are moved into now the channels that are on the inside of the harbor. And so I mean, having an idea of what those alternatives will do, I think is going to be important. And that's really typically part of a, technical appendix at that level.
Does that make sense, Tina? The question is if your engineering kind of design can answer these types of questions of impacts, potential impacts.
Yeah. I don't know that I have answers for you right now. We preliminarily were talking about maybe trying to design something that will impact the shoaling at the marsh right west of the Princeton shoreline, because we would want that to strategically erode because it's shoaling in. These are all just like concepts right now though, so I don't have great answers for you, but we're thinking about all those things, and yeah, we're just trying to crunch numbers to get there eventually.
Okay, Matt?
Can you repeat the projected sea level rise by 2050?
I think
It's 9-ish.
Where does that come from?
I can send you.
Yeah,
There's
okay.
a sea level change projection in the chat.
The state, I could chime in.
Hold on, I'm not done. Earth.gov is saying by 2050, 15 centimeters of sea level rise. I don't know if that is a reputable site, but.
I'm going to defer. The reason I'm going to defer to Tina is because there's a lot of different curves because it's based on predictions. And so we, the Corps, probably have our own answer. So Tina, are you guys talking by 2050 or 50 years out?
That's like 2050.
Okay,
Yeah,
in
I thought
20.
I thought you said 2050 and then 2021.
When we do our analysis from the time that we think construction had happened, so say we're like, oh, we think we're going to construct in 29, it would be 50 years from there.
79.
Yeah. So are you asking for 2050 or what we would look at right now for 79?
Uh-oh.
Tina, do you have access to that information?
So I'm getting similar answers to what I'm seeing in the chat here, just based on my initial analysis with the Army Corps middle curve. I was getting roughly 4 feet in 50 years from now, like 50 years from February 2026. Does that answer the question there?
Thanks.
Okay. Do we have any?
Summer, did you have something else?
Oh, yeah, where it comes from, there's the
thank
climate
you.
science, and then they scale it down. And so the state has guidance that's a little bit ahead of the Army Corps science, but there are similar projections, particularly nearer to now. And then they get further apart in like 2100. So the Corps has these published numbers that come from this science that's gone through this big long process, and then the state has guidance. So I could share with you more detail on that if you'd be interested later.
Well,
yeah, the state guidance is actually a little lower than the latest models, and a little bit lower for the near term.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the state says 0.8 inches by 2050, so almost a foot by 2050, and between 3 and 6 feet by 2100. And the Corps, they don't go to the 6 foot one by 2100, but they have curves that are similar to the state. It's easy to map it back.
Okay, maybe we can go online. Do we have any, Melanie and Jamie, do we have any questions online? First of all, maybe if anyone has a hand up, and if not, anything that's been typed in that we should hear?
I think you might have already answered this question. Sea level change is projected to rise to 3.3.
Talk into your microphone now, please.
Oh. Sea level change is projected to rise to 3.3 feet by 2070, 45 years, 4.9 feet by 2090, 65 years, and 6.6 feet, 75 years. How will the USACE interventions help in protecting the Princeton shoreline against the projected sea level rise? And then it says, can the breakwater resist 3.3 feet sea level rise?
So for the breakwater question, is that a Jim question or a Tyler question in civil engineering? Who would answer that question?
I think that's just outside the scope of this project. I don't know
Okay.
if anyone's looking at that right now.
Okay, thank you.
We also have another question. Due to the importance of the breakwater that's been mentioned, is it assumed and considered in the study that the breakwater will need to be raised at some point due to the changes in sea level?
Outside the scope of this. That's beyond the scope of this project. The Harbor District does have that to look at it in the horizon, but it's not part of this project.
Okay, back in the room, George.
Yeah, even though it's not part of the scope of this, one thing to consider is adaptive engineering, adaptive maintenance. In other words, the structures that kind of get looked at, you can look at how you can modify those easily to add to the structure in the future. So that's something that I know the Corps over the last 10, 15 years or more has been talking about. It was adaptive planning at first, but we got into adaptive engineering and then the adaptive maintenance. So, you know, a lot of these structures that they'll design are going to look at how you can add to it in the future when sea level does rise.
That sounds kind of like a comment. Would you like to? Okay, that's a comment.
Unsolicited by the Corps.
Submitted.
Also a comment, Christopher, would you like to speak?
Yeah. Hey, Eric. Good to see you. Good to see George is still around. Hey, George. Eric, have we decided on what type of a NEPA document we're looking at so far? I know you and I talked a little bit the last time I came down there and talked to Jim when Brad was doing the dog and pony show, which I have to admit, it was pretty awesome. And Jim, I thought it was pretty great what you guys were doing. Unfortunately, we didn't have an action, and as a restoration ecologist, I'm strongly advocating, and I worked with Brad a little bit on how to go about, and based on, I'd worked with him down in Monterey many, many years. But anyway, Eric, I'm looking at the sovereign land map that is constantly being updated. And we may have a little bit of overlap with jurisdiction. Do you know if the were to, or that even if it's under Section 206 or under 111 for funding, is this and can this be construed as part of navigational servitude? The reason why I'm asking is that we can help out from a state perspective as potential landowner of that area. And Jim, I'm going to ask you, are you going to be doing the CEQA on that?
Pam, can you answer that?
Pamela, are you still online for navigational servitude? I think you've thought about
Hey,
Pam.
so what are you asking about navigation servitude? I'm sorry.
It's okay. Is this project going to be covered under the action of navigation and navigational servitude for the improvement?
Well, it's certainly a navigation project, and there are a few things we'd have to consider, and it depends if it's under the mean high water line, and I was in a discussion last week about with some other realty specialists and some office of counsel folks about whether it would be doable for the non-federal sponsor for the project to, we can assert navigation servitude, but typically other people can't. But there is a discussion about maybe, if they're doing it for our project, as long as it's still in the discussion stage. But what aspect are you, is it something in the water or on the beach, or what?
It's primarily in the water. I do have access to a lot of the different survey maps and the survey actions and areas where I can give you that heads up, and you can see exactly. I just want to make sure that we help facilitate this moving forward. And as a advocate of restoration and engineering with nature, I'm a big fan of Todd Bridges and his work. So I do think that as an agency, who's one of our basic tenets is to help facilitate restoration and the protection of natural resources, I do want to make sure, and I worked with George on a couple of things in the past, so with the Coastal Sediment Management Work Group. So I do want to make sure that our agency is involved and we help you guys out as much as we can.
Absolutely.
A lot of the San Francisco folks, I'm speaking with REA today and the NOAA folks today, they're in Greater Fair Lawns folks today, and we were all using some of the stuff that Brad has done in the past and how awesome this project has been. And it's a great example of collaborative effort to move this along.
Absolutely.
So, and that's why I want to continue to help support this. And I've talked to Eric, like I said, and I'm going to continue to talk to the federal friends so that we can help keep this moving. So.
Absolutely. No, and if it's possible, we will definitely use it. There's just a couple of things we have to make sure, a couple of rules, if it meets this rule and meets this rule, then we can invoke it. So yeah, we're definitely keeping that in mind, and any help you want to give, that's awesome. And I know sometimes, if the State Lands Commission, and those type of things, it can get, we want to try to stay away from a non-standard estate if we can. So if we can invoke navigation servitude, that's the way to go. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Without saying it, you have said it for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. So, and Eric, if you have an inside line on what kind of a NEPA action, that would be great. Good to hear.
Yeah.
From the line later on or whatever.
We're looking at an EA at the moment.
That'd be great. That's actually even better. Don't say the 3-letter word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No decision made yet.
Yeah.
I know.
That's what it's looking like.
I appreciate that. So, okay.
With
great.
decisions come timelines.
I know. Thank you. Thank you. That's all I had.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Eric.
All right. So we're kind of dabbling back and forth between comments and questions. So just let us know what it is and we'll keep going. Is there anything else online?
Yeah, someone would like to know how much sea level has risen in the past 50 years.
Tina, how much has sea level risen in this area in the last 50 years?
I am unfortunately not an encyclopedia of numbers of sea level rise.
Okay. We know in-house, we have if you want, we have a response in-house. You can phone a friend. I just forgot your name.
More than I do.
My name is Karen. I'm with the county.
Okay.
Karen.
It's 8 inches over the last century. However, rates are
Accelerating.
accelerate due to warmer seas.
Okay. Did everyone hear that? 8 inches over the last 100 years, but rates are accelerating due to warmer seas? Thank you. Okay. Any other questions online?
No, we just have someone just put a website. If anyone is interested, it's called ourcoastourfuture.org/hazard map. And I will
What was it, /?
/hazard map, and I'll put this website and the comments also online.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right. So we have to stay here until 8. You are welcome to stay here until 8. But seriously, we have time. If there's any other questions, we can talk, if anyone wants, a little bit about what the process looks like going forward, or you can go home. We will be here until 8 though.
What's the next step?
That's a really good question. Do you want to, Grace, you want me to talk through it, or you want to talk through it?
Yeah, I mean, we have the slide somewhere to show next steps for public engagement, but next step in terms of the study process is to, we're completing existing conditions right now. And then the next step would be to develop those alternatives, like formally combine those measures into alternatives, and then do some coastal analysis on how those alternatives perform, what's effective, then get some costs associated with those alternatives to really see what we can do for under our cap limit. So that's kind of near-term next steps.
So the team is going to work together to build these alternatives, just to kind of reiterate. And for any of you that have worked with the Corps before, this might be mostly for you, George, but usually we have to do like a benefit to cost ratio and everything like that. Essentially for this authority, we don't do that, and we have to choose the least cost effective alternative. So when we're looking at alternatives, if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 alternatives, whatever it is, we figure out, and maybe you can talk through this and like how that decision would be made, but we compare it, like, does it meet the objectives? We look at costs, but maybe you can talk.
Yeah, and we are looking at other considerations too, like some of the things that you were talking about, George, adaptability, in the future, O&M costs. Those are all important considerations to the non-federal sponsor. And so we want to look at the best solution, least cost to meet our objectives. And that is how we want to make the decision. So I think there was one slide that said we'd evaluate it based on social, economic, and environmental considerations. And that's how we'll ultimately make the decision. But yes, there is no benefit to cost ratio under this authority. So we don't have to get to a certain number.
And we had a workshop, an agency workshop in December. And one thing we heard loud and clear there is, it's, I think I'm going to turn to you. I'm starting to get tired again, but it's not just putting sand on the beach and leaving, because we've seen how the sand, because the processes aren't changed, the sand is washed away. And so can you speak to this? Because you have the right words.
Yeah.
I'm starting to fall asleep.
Yeah. So it's what's called a period of analysis. So when you're talking about the planning horizon being 50 years, if we only put sand on the beach, the planning horizon for that project would be like 2 years, and then the sand would wash away. And so the planning horizon is really how long do we expect the project to last. And so standard is 50 years because for a long time, the Corps did those conventional engineering solutions, those gray solutions, and that they would anticipate that those would last for 50 years. So that's our standard. And so for this project, we want to do a combination of features, not just sand on the beach, so that our planning horizon is robust.
What I was trying to say is affecting the forces in, that's what I was trying to say.
You weren't talking about period of analysis. You were talking about like the forces. Yeah.
And I can't articulate it well because that's not my field, but what we heard in December about affecting the forces.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Matt.
Is that comment about the sand being washed away? Is that in
You can
response
speak
to
to
the
this,
dredging project? Like you've already done analysis and noticed that the sand that was deposited is being removed at a rapid rate?
Just like West Trail, where we did build it, and we had a good slide of West Trail on the slideshow, where you saw the fingers or rock fingers that we put in under the sand. We didn't address the root cause or root problem of why that disappeared in the first place. So, as you know, it disappeared quickly. But the upper dunes are still there, where we put the plants.
and above the rocks, still there. If we would have addressed the root cause, the beach could possibly still be there. So this project, the Princeton Shoreline and the WRDA project, one of the main objectives is to address the root cause that caused the problem in the first place. And the answer is not removal of the breakwater, but what other things can we do to prevent it from happening again and address the root cause and maintain a protective waterfront.
Still not clear, are you saying that since you deposited sand with the dredging project at the West Shore, that it's already disappeared?
On the
long term, since the 1960s disappeared?
The West Trail got down to about 36 inches. It's now much wider now, but that's being protected by an engineered beach underneath the sand. But we actually put sand that went all the way out into the harbor. That sand underneath up to the engineer port disappeared quickly because we didn't address it. No, it disappeared last year or before.
What about after the dredging project?
The dredging project didn't affect the West Trail. We did a lot of over by Mavericks Beach. We deposited sand offshore to create an eelgrass bed. That's still there. That's not moving.
That's a separate site.
That's a separate site.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, they placed that there to put eelgrass on.
Yeah, and that's recent. That's why I was so curious about it. It's already disappeared.
No, that's still there. The eelgrass is holding everything in place. And last time I looked into it, the eelgrass was happy.
And so here on the screen, that's this area, right? If I remember correctly. Oh, it's not on the screen.
It's over by Mavericks Beach.
Melanie, I think you'd have to put my
In our
screen
tugboat.
back up here. But it's kind of nice to see everybody.
I'm gonna have to find them.
So
I'm
when you
sorry.
guys come back in the fall or so, you'll have a handful of alternatives and you'll also know kind of how well they performed against your different criteria, what the kind of pros and knock-on effects were. So you'll be able to share out that.
And costs, yeah.
And at that point, seek more public input on, did we miss anything? Do we need to address something else, or is our project not going to work for some reason that you know of? We'll definitely, another public meeting before any final decisions are made.
And Jim, are we gonna have a forum like this, or is it gonna look different?
Forum like this, I would imagine.
I'm curious if this is something that's happened in other harbors and has been addressed. If there's something that's recent, other solutions that have happened or just unique to here.
I don't know.
It's unique. The problem we're facing is not unique because federal navigation projects have caused erosion up and down the California coast. So, and you saw one from the East Coast where the entrance to the harbor with a federal navigation channel stopped the sand. Down in Ventura, they pump sand from one side of the entrance to the next to keep the sand moving south. So the harbor has stopped that natural process.
I was just kind of curious because this is a little different. This isn't like moving, this is, I don't know, it seems more stationary than those other projects.
Most definitely.
Yeah, I think you characterized it really well. It's not a unique problem that happens everywhere, but this project is unique. Like there's unique coastal processes.
I mean, because you've got the marsh there and you've got the two creeks coming in, you've got the water and the breakwater.
Got a lot of storm runoff.
She wants to see, do you remember?
It's just.
Do you know what slide she would
In the
like?
creek on the,
I know I've witnessed a lot of erosion in that section.
Yep.
That one? Okay.
I think they're beyond that already.
Okay, I know, it's hard to find.
So Jim, you could show where the marsh area is.
That's not on my computer.
It's on mine, yeah.
Okay.
there it
Right
is. So-
here, right here?
Right here, no. So this area here, it was already shallow. We just made it larger because the area over here was all eelgrass and we wanted to dredge it. So we had to take the eelgrass plants from here and we created a new bed over here and planted them here. So that's a completely separate project from this project. And that sand is still there.
So if you do have comments that you'd like the team to just really take into consideration for the planning study, please like restate that right now. If you haven't already, please put them on a card, please email us on, we do have some copies of slides. We're going to email them out too, that our team email is on there. And that's also true for anyone online. George, you had a really good comment. I think maybe that we didn't hear as a comment when you're talking about modeling and things earlier. That might be something that you submit as a
I
comment.
could do that. Yeah, sure.
Somebody online also said, what's the time frame for getting to construction? And you might have already answered that, but.
Jamie, can you remind us, and there's a lot of ifs in what Jamie will say because of if we get more funding, we're gonna run out of funding soon because there's a pause from the administration on things like that. So Jamie, can you say in a perfect world, but also give a real world perspective?
Yes, so assuming everything goes smoothly with no pause in federal funding coming in, we anticipate this study will last about 3 years, and then after that we will do the design, and then we will do the construction. So I would say by 2030 we should be able to break the ground, but that's assuming everything goes so smoothly. But now we have currently have a cap funding pause that we haven't received the FY26 fiscal year 26 funding yet. So there's a potential for the pause, but we hope that that's not going to happen. But
So
we
in
are
fiscal year 26 right now, it started in October. And so she's saying we haven't received this year's funding. So we have funding, but it's what's carryover, what's left over from the year before.
right. So we are working on this project as if we are moving forward in the full force with the funding that we have from the FY25, but it's going to run out in a few months. So I'm, little worried, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully we can get something by March, the end of March. That's what we are thinking.
So I phrase this without a lot of political connotations, but funding. The administration has looked at cutting the Corps' budget for sediment management and for beach nourishment by 200 to 300 million. Does that affect the small projects, the small project shoreline change things, or do you have any feeling for that?
I mean, I don't know. And so it's a crystal ball, right?
Right. Well, that's
what we've seen and what I can't always make sense of is our larger projects are getting stalled, terminated, funds. They're almost getting hit harder than these smaller projects, at least so far. We have, ecosystem restoration projects, for example, across the country. A lot of those larger projects have been either terminated or stalled or something, but a lot of our smaller cap ones are fine. So I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know. We're living in an era of a lot of uncertainty, constant change all the time. There's change Jim told us about, you read about earlier today that we haven't heard about yet. So it's there's a lot of uncertainty with the federal government. So you can tell us when you find out.
Another question. You said email us comments. Who would we email?
Do you happen to have our slides? On the last page of the slides, there's an email, and I would put it up except we're able to see Jamie and William, you can see your things. But there's a team email, and you can send an email to that.
Thanks.
And I don't think, Eric, there's a tight time frame for getting comments in.
No,
right?
and to be honest, you can submit a comment anytime and we'll consider it. But like to be official NEPA record, they come out of the meetings. But yeah, anytime you have a question, feel free, or a comment, feel free to send it there. We'll get it.
Well, I have a lot of questions, but my comment is I emailed Jamie and Jim, and they both responded to me, so thank you. And Jim, you've been reliable over the years. You're always timely in your replies, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I like what you said early on about the dredging. And my comment is I encourage you to rely as much as possible on dredging because it improves the waterways inside the harbor. It's existing material. It is a less intrusive modification of the coast, and on the south side of the wall improves recreation.
Well, my opinion.
Bigger beaches, better waves, and it protects the highway. So I would suggest not just a once in a while, but a reoccurring dredging project.
The sands continue to be pushing the harbor through the wall and from the creeks, and then it gets trapped. It's trapped because of the breakwater.
Yes.
So that's going to be part of the Word of 2024 study is what do we do with that trapped sand? How do we prevent it from being trapped? If it does get trapped, how do we get it out? My hope is we get a Santa Cruz model where we have a dredge here all the time and it's somebody else helps us fund it.
I support that.
It's all right.
Matt, what's your affiliation?
I just live here. I've been here for 52 years. My family moved here in 74 when I was 2 years old.
Oh,
So I love it here and I just want to give input.
Great.
thank you. William, do you have any questions or comments for us?
He's one of our commissioners.
Oh, okay. Just heard you were a commissioner, William.
He's on mute.
Is it Bill, Will?
Yeah, Bill's on key.
Bill, okay.
I think he's just chew and go.
All right.
Anything else online though?
Yeah, thank you so much. I know it's, there's a lot of rules and play with the Army Corps, but it's a kind of a game you have to play to get to the money and sometimes you're solving part of the problem and not the whole problem. So
Yeah.
thank you for helping us understand that.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Jim.
I'm with the county sustainability department.
Yeah.
I do.
Right, civil rights
Really, you
stuff,
guys
I don't know
are-
how like, so if you're online, I think, if we're in the room, we're gonna stay here for a while, but I think